All right, good morning, everybody. This is Brian Leising with Financial Brokerage, and it's the top of the hour, so I think we're going to go ahead and get started. For those of you that might not be familiar with Financial Brokerage, we are a national marketing organization working primarily with independent advisors all across the country. There's life insurance, annuities, long-term care, disability, critical illness, and Medicare supplements. I'm speaking to you from our life insurance department because the company that has developed and houses our primary GUL and term quoting engine has recently done an upgrade. The quoting engine does all the same things it used to do, plus a few more things, and it does certainly look a little bit different than how it used to look. So we've been getting a lot of questions on that. I thought it's well worth doing a webinar where I go through a walkthrough, sort of a grand tour of the new quoting engine and some features within that. All of your lines are muted. We do that to cut down the background noise. You can still ask questions, though. You can type those into the control panel, and I'll get to as many of those as I possibly can at the end of the webinar. This will not last too terribly long. I would expect well under a half hour and maybe more like 15 minutes. But what you see right now in front of you is our main landing page for our website, financial-brokerage.com. And I have already logged in. When you go to our website, you'll want to log in the upper right. I don't know if you can see my mouse moving right there. But right now, my only option would be to log out, which I don't want to do. But once you've logged in, the place you want to go to is Quotes right here. And if you hover over Quotes, you're going to see the drop-down menu. For our purposes this morning, we want to go to Term and UL Quotes. We'll give it a few seconds, and then we'll see another selection page here. I'm going to point out something. I'm not going to click on it, but this Term and UL quoting engine really has two parts. The first part here includes a needs analysis. If you don't already have a needs analysis that you like to use with your clients, I highly recommend using one. This is one you could certainly use. It calculates everything electronically in real time. You will certainly increase your chances of making a sale and increase your sales by using some form of a needs analysis with your clients. But we're going to skip that for our purposes right now and go right to the quoting engine without the needs analysis. It'll take a few seconds for that to load. And you're going to come across another button that says click here to run a quote. That will connect. This is what the landing page for the quoting engine will look like. Anything that is highlighted with a yellow background is required information. If it's not highlighted in yellow, it's good to know. This part here at the top with the agent information, that is not the default setting. There's a spot to go to, and I can't remember where off the top of my head in the settings where you can add that if that's not appearing for you. You don't have to have your name appear on these quotes. If you don't want it to, there is nothing that is necessarily compliant about any of these. So none of the insurance companies that you quote require this sort of quote to be submitted with an application. It's for your own purposes and the client's purposes to have a nice, concise report put together. So that stuff is optional. But what I'm going to do here is walk you through the various sections of the main input page. And then we're also going to go ahead and walk through the results panel, and I'm going to demonstrate some things a person can do from that side of things as well. But for this purpose, you know what, I'm going to say that it is much more accurate to put in a birth date than it is to put in an age. Some companies go by nearest age. Some companies go by actual age. If you put in the birth date, you don't have to worry about who does what and where your particular client falls in that realm. So for these purposes, you know what, this would be a good demonstration. I'm going to put in my own birth date because my actual age is different from my nearest age at this point in time. You can change The state right here, depending what state the client is in, prices are almost always the same. I can't think of an instance when they've been different from one state to another, but product approvals can differ, particularly for folks in California and sometimes in Florida and Massachusetts. You would choose your gender over here. This quoting engine can be used for term as well as GUL, and I'll run some examples of both of those. I'm going to touch quickly here on term with simplified issue. We don't see a whole lot of that. It used to be that there were several companies offering term insurance without a paramed exam, usually up to $250,000, and you only had two choices for rate classes, non-smoker or smoker, and they all had about 2 to 4 table ratings built into the pricing. So it was a little pricier type of product. Not many carriers offer that anymore, and I'm going to show you why. Really briefly, I'm going to get off the quoting engine and go to another part of our website. A lot of companies nowadays will offer their fully underwritten products and preferred plus rates but without a paramed exam. So you don't have to go to the old-fashioned simplified issue sort of products. And we have a listing of who does that and what the parameters are. If you hover over new business and then go to underwriting, and then you want to click on the accelerated underwriting guide, and we update this as things change with the carriers. In fact, it was just updated a few weeks ago. So the first grouping of companies and products, there is absolutely no exam required with these companies if your clients are within the listed ages and they're applying for these face amounts on these particular products. The next column is going to let you know what sort of rate classes are available. Some of these will limit you to standard rates only. Some of them, though, example here, SBLI, all rate classes are available. I think same thing with Sagicor. If they're Preferred Plus, they can get Preferred Plus without going through an exam. Many of these require that your application be done online only. So if you're submitting a paper app, clients will not qualify for this underwriting. So it's just a little aside. We don't see term of simplified issue used often at all because we can get to no exam products by using the basic default term setting. You just have to reference over here to this page to see if your client fits. Okay, so that's what I wanted to cover on the simplified issue. There's nothing to plug in the product group section right now. On term length, you have your choices here of all the various term lengths that companies offer. There's one, maybe two companies that offer all these 1-year increment terms. You're not going to find that too often. And in fact, if you want to quote it, go ahead. But I would also recommend quoting the next increment that's divisible by 5, that's greater than that. Because chances are, if you're quoting somebody's 22-year term, someone else is going to have a 25-year term for less money. It's worth checking out. And one of the changes to this quoting engine is that you can now quote multiple term lengths at the same time. They will let you quote actually up to 3 different term lengths in there. And same thing with the death benefit. You're not limited to one death benefit at a time. You can put in multiple death benefits, again, up to 3, and run the numbers. Riders, we have just 4 riders on this quoting engine to choose from. The accidental death benefit, some companies make that available. Waiver premium, return of premium, there's 2 or 3 companies that offer that, and then most companies offer a child rider of some kind. I will caution you, once we get to the GULs, if you try to put on one of these riders, you will probably not get any results from the quoting engine. It's not that the GUL products don't have those riders available, but this quoting engine is not sophisticated enough to run the GUL quotes with those riders. So we can get to WinFlex Web to run that for you, or I can walk you through that software. So that's a little side note on the riders here. At the bottom, we have the underwriting information. And the easiest thing to do, the thing we do most often, is hit this button here. It says Select Health Class. And then we can look at the drop-down menu. And if I'm in good shape, I can mark preferred best. If I'm not sure, I can mark preferred best and preferred, and the quoting engine will run all those. It's going to take a little longer to run. In fact, if you want it to take the longest possible time to run, you can hit all non-tobacco. Then you're going to get every company and every rate class that they could possibly offer. Another thing to note right here, you don't have to select the health class ahead of time. You can hit enter health profile. Now this works well if your client maybe stopped smoking a few years ago and you're not sure what rate class they qualify for now, or if you're not sure what rate class they might qualify for due to height and weight. Well, you can put in a client's height and weight right here, and then underwriting information has been built into this quoting engine, and you're going to get results that reflect what the various companies would do based on that height and weight. Now, another little aside off of this too, if your client has some other health conditions other than just being overweight or being a former smoker, we have an in-house underwriter here, Andrea Rasser, and she can help you determine what rate class is most likely to happen for that particular client. Most folks will start with myself or one of my counterparts here in Life Marketing, though, because there are a lot of questions that need to be answered. And there's no sense going to Andrea if you don't have all the information that the insurance companies are going to require. So another thing to look for here, it's also under new business on our main page. If you go to underwriting, we have the NAILBA Field Underwriting Guide out there on our website. You may have seen this before. It takes one more click and we'll be there. This is like a 122-page document. I'm sorry, 117 pages. I guess I overestimated. But in here, you will find questionnaires for just about every condition under the sun. So if you had a client, for example, that had congestive heart failure, you wonder what rate class to use, call your client, have them answer all the questions on this page, email that over to us, and Andrea can check with our companies and get a good idea of what we can expect based on that client's condition. So, and just to give you an example, say the answers came back and it was standard with a table 4. Well, right here in the select health class section, you can plug that in, standard table 4, and it's going to give you everybody's rate at a table 4 rate class. So that was one little aside there. I'm going to go back to preferred best non-tobacco, and we're actually going to run a quote now that we've seen the input page and some of the things that this does. Some people like to use the show top 5 category. I would recommend avoiding that. A lot of times there are reasons to use a particular company that will be just outside of that top 5, especially when you get to the ULs. And you can narrow that down. I'll show you how you can do that in just a second here. But for now, I'm going to hit Get Quotes, and it's going to take us to another page. All right, so here is our main display page. It looks a little bit different than what it used to, but I guarantee you can do all the things you used to do with it, plus some more things that make going back and forth with quotes a lot easier. So you've got the client on the phone and you're trying to figure out the right combination of coverage and length and amount and price point. It's a lot easier to do now than what it used to be. I'm going to start though with this left-hand column over here, because this is where you can change things back and forth pretty easily. Used to be a person would have to hit this back button to go back to that original input page we saw to change any of these results. Now you can do it right from this panel right here, right? So let's say we're talking to a client and you know what, they really want to see, well, what would 2 million cost? Well, we can click this button here and we can plug in 2 million. It's going to load the results. After a minute or so. And then we're going to be able to scroll down here. There's our 1 million prices. And now here's our 2 million prices. I'm going to go ahead and X out of that just to make this go a little faster. We can also change health classes. If we want to add in the preferred health classes, we can do that. It's going to load those results. But then we're going to have preferred mixed in with preferred best. And same thing with carriers too. If you know that you're looking for one or two or three specific life insurance companies, maybe the ones you're already contracted with, or the ones that came back with favorable underwriting estimates, you know what, you can deselect the whole list, and then you can go back in and just select specific companies, and then those are the only ones that are going to show up for you there. I'm going to go back and select all of them though. And also, let's say we forgot to put in some riders. If somebody thinks of it later, you can add your riders back over here, and it's going to change the quotes, all without having to go all the way back to that initial input screen. All right, so that's the left-hand column. For the remainder of this, I'm going to go over this main display panel here. So a few things that this can do that you know, the old quoting engine couldn't. It's very easy now to change our mode of premium. It used to be you had to determine this on the front page. Now the default setting is annual, but guess what? You're a mouse click away from changing all these prices from annual to monthly premium mode, if that's the way that your client intends to pay the premiums. And the order may very well change too. They're always going to order this from the lowest price company to the highest. And depending on modal factors, the company comes out best annually may not come out best on a monthly basis. Let's see here. I think I'm going to show this again. We have two face amounts in here. What we see at the top here is the lower face amount of whatever you'd put in. If you want to see what the 1 million looks like, you need to scroll down, and eventually you'll find the 1 million numbers right here. This is something to watch and maybe even display for a client if you're right next to a price break. You know, a lot of times folks will be asking for $200,000 of coverage, and then we'll go ahead and run 250 because even if the price isn't lower, it's usually close enough that it would be silly for the person just to apply for 200 when they get 250 for another $1 per month. So that's where the multiple face amounts can come into play and help you a bit. We've got multiple term lengths out here too, and now it's very easy to switch from one to another. All I have to do is click on that 30-year, and now we're going to see the 30-year prices for the $500,000. And if I scroll down, we'd see the 1 million as well. Let's see here. If you want to show this to a client or save it for some reason, maybe for reference to speak to a client, we can click the box to the left of the company name. And you see up here, they're being added to a comparison as I do that. I can click on that, and we're going to see just the companies that I've clicked on over there. Let's say for some reason you don't want Cincinnati Life in the lineup, or you don't want Prudential. We can take them out, and then we've got just these three in the comparison. You can go back and forth and compare different term lengths on that same comparison. We could also add in different face amounts there as well. As far as some sort of a printed report, we actually now have three options, and you can go to the download button up at the. This has become my favorite, and you might see why in a minute here. All right, it generates a PDF, which you then have to click on. But now we've got a display that looks a lot like what we saw on our screen. We've got the age of actually the birthday of the client up top. We've got all the companies listed, the product. We have their AM Best ratings. We have the age that they calculated. And this is where that age actual and age nearest comes into play. Look at this. Mutual of Omaha is making me 44. Everyone else is making me 45 at this point in time. And even if we're looking at monthly numbers, we now see all the other modes of payment very clearly in this sort of a report. So that's listed as the the list report. We can take a look at the comparison ledger here. And it generates a PDF, which you'll need to click on. And this looks a lot like the old comparisons used to, where we see everything displayed in columns, and insurance is a little silly because prices are exactly the same each and every year. I'm not be good. It tells us exactly what we need to know, but I don't need to know that the price is the same every year. And then the third report here is listed as a detail report. This is going to give you, in some cases, a lot more information on each individual product that you've chosen in there. With some of these, the information just hasn't been uploaded into the iPipeline quoting engine. But on some of them, like this example here with Banner, it tells us when it's convertible to. It also tells us what the underwriting requirements are. So that's helpful information. Again, some companies have more information uploaded into this than others do. Now, you can also get to some of that information without having to create a full report there. If you click on the product name, and I'm going to click on this op term here with Banner, because I know they have some information here. You're going to get that same sort of a display. It tells you when they last updated the rates. Again, it gives you the maximum conversion age. It gives you the underwriting requirements. So if you're ever wondering, which company requires the least amount of exams to go through, well, you can start looking at those right there, and it's going to give you a good indication. Except for Hancock, they're not going to tell you. Something else that you can do off of this page here, if you're looking for the application, client says, yeah, I want to go ahead and I want to apply with Banner Life. Okay, you can hit the apply button without having to go to another system. You don't have to go into forms. You don't have to go into the iGo e-application process. You've got two options here. In Banner's case, you can click on the paper forms, and you're going to get a PDF, which you could print or email or save to your computer. You can also go through the drop ticket process with Banner, which is an electronic application. You can do it all from the quoting engine. Now, I'm going to see if I can find another one that gives us three options, because some of these will give us a third option out there. And I got lucky because Prudential is one of them. So we have some of the same options we saw with Banner. We have a paper form available. We have a quick ticket or a drop ticket short form app where the client will receive a phone call from the carrier, and they'll conduct an interview and order any exams. But there's also the full e-application where you're asking all the questions. You're going through the full app with the client, gets emailed to them. They email it back to you, and then finally you submit it, and you also order the exam. So you don't have to memorize who has what. All you have to do is click on the button that says apply, and you're going to see exactly what the options are right there. I want to go over one other little thing here too, which helps out in table-rated cases. If you want to go ahead and compare various rate classes and do it manually, there's a way to do it here. We have to wait for the results to load, though. All right, so I'm going to hit standard. And just as an example, let's say we enlisted Andrea's help, and she came back and told us Pac Life and Banner, we're going to give this client a standard rate. All right, so those are added to the comparison. But let's say that we had a couple other companies come back and say, no, this guy's table 2 for us. We can run the table 2 rates. We wait a few seconds. And we wait a few more seconds. All right, now we'll see the table 2 prices, and I'm going to choose a couple different carriers this time. We can click those, and look, all 4 are in the comparison. So the first 2 that we had are still in there. You couldn't do that on the old quoting engine. In fact, here's what that looks like. You can click compare, and now you can see we've mixed together standard rates with Pacific and Banner, along with table 2 rates with AIG and Protective. This really comes in handy if you've seen any of the underwriting results we get back. Typically, you'll see several carriers say, we're going to offer this client table 2, and then you get a couple at table 4, and somebody at table 6, and somebody at table 8. Well, just because one company has a higher table rating than another company doesn't mean their prices are going to be higher. I've seen many times someone comes in with a table 4, and they're better than all the other companies that are offering a table 2. So this is very handy to do that comparison all on the same page right now. I'm going to go back to the results. I want to quickly run a GUL in here as well to give you an idea what that looks like. We're back to the input page now. Instead of term, I'm going to click on Guaranteed Universal Life, and I'm just going to use one face amount to make this go a little faster. We'll run Preferred Best. GULs are a little bit different. You're not going to see full illustrations off of the software. You're not going to see cash values. What you're seeing is the price that will guarantee coverage to a particular age. And if you want to know how far it's going to go, all you have to do is look here across the top. With the old quoting engine, they used to mix all these things together, and you had to look really closely when you went through the comparison to see what you were really looking at. Well, now if you want to see what does it cost to guarantee coverage to age 90, you can see the listing right here. What if we want to go to 100? Well, there's the pricing, and look at that. It's $31.52 versus $31.12. It actually costs less to guarantee to 100 than it would to age 90 in this case. If we want to guarantee for life, and the longest anyone's going to display as far as an age is 121, we can click there, and we can see there's not that much difference between 100 and 121 as well. But depending on what your client thinks their life expectancy is going to be, or what you're comfortable with, you can show your client any one of these, or even click on them in a comparison. We could do that just to prove it to somebody, right? If they didn't believe you, you can click on 90, 100, 105, and 121 and see them in the comparison. And here we'll have the pricing for all those. That doesn't look as good, I don't think, as if we do this list report. It'll be a little more concise. Yeah, so there we go. We can see that it makes more sense to guarantee to 100 than to 90. And if you're going to pay the $271 a month, why not pay another $7 and guarantee it to 105 just in case? And if you're already paying $278, what's another $8 a month to guarantee it for life, just in case you do make it that far? So this can really help make the case for that lifetime guarantee for your clients. So I think, save a quote. If you want to save this, and this is the last thing I had on my list, you can plug in a description there, and I'm just going to say, we'll call this webinar quote, and it will be saved to the online system here. So if you want to go up to your My Quotes section, you're going to see what was saved there, and you can get back in and edit the quote, or you can just view it. Looks like I did one the other day in preparation for this, so I can hit edit and go right back in to my main input page. But that is the new look quoting engine. So I'm going to click on the questions here and see what I'm able to answer. But yeah, that's the end of the main part of the webinar. I do want to thank everybody for joining us. We sure appreciate you taking your time, and explore our website, financial-brokerage.com. And if you have any questions on this, myself and Gary and Alan are all available here to walk you through that. So, all right, I'm going to look through the questions here. One person is asking about X-Ray. X-Ray was an underwriting pre-screening system, and they were purchased by iPipeline and incorporated into this quoting engine. And it looks like with this update, the only parts of that they have retained are this part with the height and weight, and then the tobacco usage. So unfortunately, the other features in there have gone away. That wasn't our decision. That was all done by iPipeline. All right. Do we have any other questions out there? Keep in mind you can type them in the control panel there on your right. All right. Well, I don't see any others out there. So once again, I appreciate your time. Oh, and next week I put in a little plug. Same time, same day, Wednesday at 11 Central. I'll be hosting sort of a follow-up webinar to this one, where I'm going to go through the end result quotes and be displayed there. Just because one company has the lowest price doesn't necessarily mean that they are the best choice for a particular client. There are about half a dozen different items, built-in riders and features that aren't necessarily obvious on this quoting engine, and I'll walk you through who offers what and why you might want to be talking about that with your clients. So hope you can join us next week at the same time, and thank you for joining us today. Hope to see you then.